All right, listeners, I am elated to have in studio with us City Commissioner for the City of Fargo, Mike Williams. Thanks for joining us this morning.
How you doing, Eric?
Top of the world, shiny on my forehead, but otherwise everything is great.
It's snowy and bright this morning.
It certainly is, Mike. Mike, you've been serving on the City Commission for quite some time now. Give us a bit of your background so people understand who you are, what you do, and what pumps you up every day.
Sure. I was born in Fargo, youngest of 10 kids, lived over by the river by St. John's, and we all went to Shanley. I graduated and worked construction around the country. So working in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia. And I probably made more money then than I do now, but I missed living here. So I came back because I know I could have an effect on my environment here. So it's a fun town to live in.
I love that you chose to be impactful as opposed to just letting the community impact you, and it's vice versa here. But you grew up in Fargo, and what was the main draw for you to come back here? Was it the people? Was it the job opportunities? Was it real estate radio? What was your main draw?
It preceded real estate radio, but it is the people. I'm an outdoorsman. I like to hunt and fish. Mm-hmm. I like to play golf and the people. So living in Florida, I always thought, geez, I dream of Genie. Think of this nice beaches and things.
Right.
But nobody was from Florida. They'd all moved there. So there were not a lot of natives around, and there wasn't a lot of community orientation. So I kind of missed that about Fargo because we're kind of we're a big neighborhood in North Dakota. We only have 700,000 people. So it's just like a big, wide city across the states. You get to know your neighbors. Anybody you meet, you'll find somebody you know within a few minutes.
It's almost creepy, but it's also great. Yeah, it's the best thing about this community is the interconnectedness and the way in which you can stay in proximity to people, both with your choices and your families.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you come. You said you're the 10th kid in your family.
Yeah, we had a medium-sized kid. We were Catholics, and I married a Lutheran. And she was a farm girl, and she had 9. So they were good Lutherans, good farmer Lutherans. That's right.
Mike, I love it. Hey, we wanted to bring you in studio. Of course, as a city commissioner, you have a lot of things in terms of insight as to what's happening in our community. We want to be a sounding board for people to allow our listening audience to know the growth that's happening in Fargo and the good and the bad and the in-between. Mm-hmm. There was an interesting story in the paper lately, and people have been talking about density and population growth and how Fargo is going to maintain its growth over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And you had some great opinions on that. So I just want to give you a platform. I'm going to interject with some questions here, but give you a runway. So those of you just tuning in, Mike Williams, and we're talking about population density and Fargo growth. And so, Mike, what's happening? What are your suggestions? What do you think we should be doing as an industry and a community?
Sure. Well, the way we grow really matters. And as far as, being affordable, efficient, and close-knit and connected neighborhood, you don't have to try to reinvent the wheel. You look past to the neighborhoods that we grew up in. So the neighborhood 58103 now, there's a trend back to the core. So 58103 is the top 10 hottest real estate market in the entire country.
And I'm a realtor, and I'm in this. I would have said 58104 is hotter than 58103, but the numbers don't lie. 58103 is still the hot trend and one of the top 10. So I think that's surprisingly great.
Well, and that reflects a national trend that, the idea about it didn't matter how far away you lived from each other because the costs weren't really reflected. Short-term growth looked like it was a high value, but there's a lot of costs that weren't being accounted for. So we're in a good position. Back in the 1960s, we had 10 people per acre. Well, we had more kids per family. Like we
your
did.
Catholic family. Yeah.
But even now in those neighborhoods, you'll have 8 to 9 people per acre. So it's not like we're building skyscrapers. 8 to 9 people is a nice traditional neighborhood, and there's a demand for that.
Is that a common trend across the United States? Is 8, 9, 10 people per acre? Is that about what you'd find, except for in real urban areas?
Yeah, well, and there's different transects is what you call it. So you have a rural area, you have a suburban area, and then you have an urban area, and then you get to the downtown. So there's different contexts for those different types of development. So they all don't have to be the same. That's what makes a good community. But a good community also has to be efficient and connected. So one of the things that's been lacking is that connectivity. So we, the way we've been developing the last 30 years is very, there's no grid system. So basically it funnels everybody into the main arterials, and that creates congestion. So even though we only have 3 people per acre south of 94, there's higher congestion because there isn't that connectivity and those options to move around. I can go 140 different ways from one corner to the next corner of my section because of the grid and the 12 blocks systems.
So are you saying that south of 94 in Fargo hasn't been developed properly?
I'm just saying that it's been developed in a way that costs more for the people that choose to live there. So you notice in those areas closer to where you live, work, and play, you don't have to have as many cars for one thing. So there's costs there. Special assessments are costs. You know, when you have existing infrastructure, if you're going to be living in a brand new home, it's $50,000-$60,000 for a lot, another $50,000-$60,000 for the infrastructure before you build your house. So it's, you know, that's a choice, and that's good. We want new growth, but we also want to be able to maximize the public investment in the infrastructure that we've made. So people that if you can get by with one less car, you can save $9,000 a year. We just built a Habitat home. The mortgage was $130,000. So without having to make another nickel, just by having one less car, she can make her mortgage payment. So where you choose to live really matters.
Yeah. Mike, there's a lot more I want to dive in with this. We're going to go to break here in just a minute. Those of you who are tuning in, we have Mike Williams, City Commissioner of the City of Fargo here. And we want you in the meantime to go to livefargomoorhead.com when we go to break. Find out what your home is worth and take a look at a few homes that are on the market. This is Real Estate Radio with Erik Hatch. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio. As always, I'm your host, Erik Hatch, and in studio with us, we have Fargo City Commissioner Mike Williams, and we're talking about the growth of Fargo and density. I want to come out and just ask the question, Mike. Doug Burgum came out and he said that we need to be more dense. How do you feel about that? Is he right? Is he wrong? Or is he both?
No, well, it's here to put it in perspective. In 1960, we had 47,000 people on 8 sections of land. There's 32,000 sections right now of 32,000 acres of land right now there's 50 sections of land. And so the growth of the population's gone up 2.4 times, but our land use has gone up 6 times, almost 3 times faster than our population growth. And what that does is
we're a bigger city square footage wise than Boston or San Francisco.
That's right. I found that statistic in 2011 and have shared it, and I like to see that other people have shared it too.
Yeah. Oh, and maybe I'm just quoting you, but I wasn't the originator, that's for sure. I heard somebody smarter than me say it, and so maybe I'm stealing your stuff.
No, we want to share that information. It's good stuff. So anyway, the idea is density by itself doesn't really mean anything. It's all about the context. So, for instance, San Francisco has 33 people per acre. They have a lot of skyscrapers and houses built side by side. Boston has the same size footprint. They have 22 people per acre. We used to have 10 people per acre in our traditional neighborhoods, and we still do in those traditional neighborhoods, the ones that are most desirable, 58103. But with that land expansion into the low-lying areas, it's really created some obstacles as far as being able to be efficient for delivery of services.
So what's our density now?
3.6 people per acre.
And that's even with 58103 being at 8 to 10 people per acre.
That's right. So it shows the low density areas in the newest last 30 years. So one way to do that is basically to just have a goal. Even our projected growth by 2040 is 154,000 people. We're at about 115,000 right now.
So we're looking at 40,000 more people in the next
25 years.
20, and Fargo, the Fargo-Moorhead Metro, we're at about 220,000 or so today, right?
We're not quite at 200,000 because when we get to 200,000, then we'll get to do Metro Transit Authority. So we're waiting for that date.
I thought we were even higher.
That's
than
in the MSA that we're talking about. So the Metropolitan Service Area.
Gotcha.
So it's less than 200,000, but when you include the more rural cities, then it would be over.
Okay.
But anyway, just by adding one person per acre, that'd be 32,000 more people. So just by adding one person per acre to the 3.6, That would get us to our projected goals of 2040. If we got 9 people per acre, the projected goal or projections for population by 2040 for the metro area is 260,000. If we did 9 people per acre, like we have in those traditional neighborhoods, we'd have 280,000 people in the same footprint. So we don't need to expand our boundary.
Right. Those of you just tuning in again, Mike Williams, City Commissioner of Fargo, and we're talking about population density. If I read through the lines here, I either need to take on a roommate or have more kids. Is that right?
I would say no. The average family now is about 1.5 to 2 kids. But like I said, the idea is not that you have to build skyscrapers. The areas that we show off when we bring people to Fargo are downtown and South A Street, that Horace Mann neighborhood. Those are the traditional neighborhoods, and that's the hottest real estate market. So it just shows it's not for everybody, but it's nice to be able to have a vibrant urban core that you build off of. So we have good infrastructure, the best infrastructure in the region. So we don't have to expand. We just need to fill in the spots that have been underdeveloped or not developed yet.
Right. And I sure appreciate that thought. Is there a way, besides building up downtown, is there any ways for us to build out in the 58102, 58103 ecosystem?
There's a lot. And even, there's areas like West Acres, for instance. Edamar Chidozi made a presentation to basically turn West Acres into a urban design. Really? So you add some mixed-use residential with some offices and retail and some underground parking. That whole area could be like a great downtown.
Well, we're growing up, we're growing out. Do you see any slowing of growth? There was a story this last week that came out that talked about how North Dakota could be on the brink of a recession.
Yeah, I would say that Fargo and North Dakota is going to be just fine, but Fargo and the East in particular is maybe more diverse than the rest of the state. Technology, manufacturing, agriculture, they're all key elements, and so we're not just dependent on one resource, and that's really healthy. So even during the depths of the housing recession, our valuation still went up 2%. So we're conservative here as far as we try to do more with less.
Right.
We don't waste. We don't borrow more than we can afford, and we like to do most we can with what we have.
Yeah, well, Mike, I sure appreciate you coming in. This is insightful for our listening audience. And let me recap in layman's terms. Fargo's growing. There's no way around it. And we can both grow and get more dense without having to take on more space. Is that about right?
That's right. And higher quality of life and more affordability, more efficiency, less cost of delivery of services.
I love it. Mike Williams, City Commissioner of the City of Fargo, thanks for joining us. In the meantime, go to livefargomoorhead.com and find out what your home is worth.